on February 4th, 2026, and I would like to call to order this meeting of the Charter and Rules Committee of the City of Holyoke City Council. I'm Mimi Panic, the chair of the committee. With me in chambers is Vice Chair Linda Vacon, Ward 5 Councilor, and committee member Rick Purcell, Ward 4 City Councilor, and Patty Devine, who is not a member of the committee but is an important member of the full council, is with us in chambers. And Jeffrey, do I need to do any rigmarole about taking votes because nobody appears to be on Zoom, or at least no councilor appears to be on Zoom?
All of your committee members are in person, so you're good with that.
Okay, great. So,
I'll make a motion to take up item 1.
You have to read your disclaimer.
my disclaimer.
Yeah, like the,
We don't
no.
have anybody on Zoom on the committee.
So I will second that. And item 1 is the minutes from our last meeting on, no, this is the minutes from, yes, our last meeting,
January 30th. 20.
January 21st, 2026. And does anyone,
Motion to receive.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Motion to take up item 2.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so this one is an order that I would welcome City Solicitor Mike Bissonette's advice on. We referred out the Chapter 27 language last time, and last night we passed it. That was taking the treasurer-collector out of the line of succession for the mayor.
Correct.
And I believe that we were holding the Chapter 44 language because we weren't sure what the title was going to be. And now we know that the title is going to be treasurer-collector. And
I'm sorry, I don't know if I have the right agenda. You're taking up
item 2.
item 2, I have McGrath Smith.
Oh,
You want to date? No, February 4th.
No, that's it, but, so it's confusing because it refers to the whole Modernization Act, but it's really,
It was in 2 little pieces.
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to make a motion to give it leave to withdraw because it's old and it referred to the Modernization Act that did not pass in 2025. Now, granted, we have the new language before us that passed,
Yeah.
but it has a whole bunch of different things in it.
Yeah, no, that was going to be one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because as I read it, it looks like this is, this rule doesn't really cover what we're doing now anyway, because it also refers to a joint
Yes,
reference out.
it's really
not to
stale.
do.
So my motion would be to give it leave to withdraw because there will have to be a new order that's going to address the whole variety of things.
Yeah. Yeah,
That this will also be included, but
yeah, but I mean, I'm inclined to say yes, of course, and my only question here is whether we do want to take up the little change from treasurer to treasurer-collector, which we tabled last time. And that's
But-
just,
all right, so then I just have a different question.
Yeah.
Which so typically if we have an order that we referred out, this was a problem because it had 2 things on it, but this has already been referred out to council and acted on. So,
but it's simultaneously tabled,
well, but it
yeah.
couldn't be referred out and tabled. So that's my problem with it, because it was on the agenda, but it was also in council.
Yeah.
So I just, as just a technical thing,
Yeah.
I don't think you can have it in 2 places at once.
Okay,
But it's stale, we have to do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be just put everything in one thing.
Yeah.
But
Well-
that's me.
that's you, but it may also be me, because my feeling is this is not an urgent problem, unless anyone disagrees. This is just the change of a title. And at some point, I suppose we'll have to decide whether we want the treasurer-collector to be in that position.
Right.
But right now, I don't think the Soldiers Commission does a lot of work, and
No.
it can wait until we take up everything, unless I hear.
I think it's cleaner that way.
Yeah. Counselor Devine.
I tend to agree with Linda if she wants to give it leave to withdraw.
Microphone.
Microphone on, your light.
Sorry about that. Because I tend to agree with Linda because we're working on that ordinance with so much things in it that Meg McGrath, as chair of ordinance, was working on the other night. So I think you don't want to duplicate this and get it confusing, so I would go along with the leave to withdraw.
Okay, and Rick, any questions or comments?
Just one, if, I know this is in conjunction with, in order to get it, the whole thing started, the whole modernization act, we have to have our committee and the ordinance committee to agree on it. Is that correct?
No,
No, not anymore.
DGR?
no.
No.
No, we passed part one last night.
Right.
Ordinance is out of this. It's down to us.
Okay, that was my only question.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Right.
to make sure we're not in, we have to pass this in order for the whole thing to go through.
No, it's confusing because this was an old order
Right.
filed last year.
Yeah, 4125.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I have no questions. That was my question.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to give this leave to withdraw.
That was my motion.
Okay, I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Motion to take up item 3.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so this is interesting in that, we had all been concerned about getting things into Municode. And by sheer coincidence, I was checking Municode the other day, and I see that part one of these changes has been made. There's this lovely big introductory, here's what hasn't been placed in the.
I saw that also.
Yeah. So that's been done. And the other piece of this is that Councillor McGrath Smith had asked about maybe putting this as a running item on our agendas so that we all know what has been at. Councillor Devine.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think for clarity purposes and the people at home, you need to read the order.
All right, thank you, yes. Still figuring this gig out. Item 3, 1626, McGrath Smith ordered that a standing agenda item be added to the council agenda to allow for tracking the progress of ordinances being changed in Municode. This will allow us to ensure that our ordinance changes are being accurately recorded.
Thank you.
Councillor Devine, I'm sorry, Councillor Bacon. I do know
We
the
look so
difference.
much alike.
So I did notice that the items were added, but I did not have time or the inclination to try to cross-check that everything that had been passed that hadn't been put into the proper area was there. But it looked like it would be.
Yeah,
So it seemed to me, assuming that they are all there, it's much better to have it there than to be running a separate document on the agenda. Because we can all go to the ordinance on Municode and look at it.
yeah, and I felt the same way. And my only thought about the agenda question is, well, for one thing, Meg did ask for it to be on the agenda. She's not here tonight to comment.
Right.
But also,
And she didn't let you know if she felt it's covered yet? So,
no, we haven't touched base on it.
okay. I thought maybe if she had seen it too, she would have said,
Yeah.
it's good. But if she didn't, then we can table
We
it.
can table it, but I also wanted to run an idea by you all, which is, we all saw Jeffrey's example of how this might go on the agenda, and they're giant.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
it's,
wondered if it might be useful instead to have something like a running appendix that we could all consult that would be on paper, but just one copy and in chambers, so that we did have a paper version of up to date someplace, but we weren't printing out 50 pages by the end of the.
so will what he is doing though be copying what's in Municode? Because are those things going to be rolled into Municode like every time we pass something?
Ideally, they should be.
Right, so if that's happening, why would we want him to have to do another tracking?
in case it isn't really happening, or in case anybody's having trouble accessing Municode. As I say, I don't have strong feelings about this either way. I just,
Well, I would suggest we table it till the maker can
okay.
say what if she feels that resolves it, or if she feels we need a side-by-side. I don't know, or if you want to move it out,
Yeah, no,
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with keeping it tabled too, but Mr. Purcell, sir.
So, my understanding with Meg was that when she presented at the last meeting was that Municode is so backed up in them putting the ordinances in that, when will we ever know that they're caught up if we don't have that paper? And whether we have the paper or not, as long as we know that they're doing the job they say they're supposed to do. And there was a thing about the contract, and how many days does it take them to put the stuff in per the contract, to get that stuff in the system that they haven't did yet? And why are they, if they're behind schedule, why aren't they adhering to the contract? That's what I recollect. And so, how do we, by my understanding was she wanted to know a way that we would always know when they finally did what they were supposed to do, and who tracks that?
Okay, well, so what I am hearing is that Councillor Bacon is right, and we should give this, or put this back on the table.
Do you want to just show that to Counselor Purcell, just so he
Sure.
can see how it's showing now? Because it wasn't
Yeah.
like that before?
Yeah, this is the new Municode. This is the landing page.
Oh, yeah.
And just for the public, I'm showing the committee the way that, Jeffrey's putting it up, I think? Yes, so that you can see how the adopted ordinances are now listed, but they're not
Codified.
they're not codified into Municode, but they have been passed, so they're listed.
Yeah, and what we don't know is if we passed something last night, how long before it's actually up as one of the not codified yet.
So the last date on it at the moment is 1/6/26.
Not bad.
And it is the classification and hiring schedules
Yeah,
to amend section 2.35.
yeah. So, again, maybe the answer is that we want some paper recording of what has been passed but isn't there yet. But I still think your point is an excellent one. The maker of the order might have something to say about this.
Right. So we could table it, and if she comes on later in the meeting, we could pick it up again. I'll make a motion to table
I'll second.
for feedback from the maker.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up item 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 4 is from 10/20/25. City of Holyoke apply to the legislature for a home rule petition that allows the city to expand the use of MGL Chapter 40, Section 22A and 3/4, which grants authority to municipalities to designate a parking space at City Hall for veterans. If the petition is granted, the city could create a local ordinance that would designate parking for veterans at municipal buildings other than City Hall. Refer to Charter and Rules, copy to Parking Advisory Committee. And as I recall, we were basically waiting for advice from Solicitor Bissonnette as to whether we actually needed this to designate whatever parking spaces as veteran parking spaces that we liked.
That's my recall also.
Okay. So, Councillor Devine, do you wish to comment before we turn to Solicitor Bissonnette?
Yeah, what I'm doing is looking for a picture that I sent to Meg that has a beautiful thing for veterans parking up at where the Southampton Big Y is. There's a Tractor Supply there, and the veterans parking spot is unbelievable. But I can't find a picture.
Well, it's all right, because the question is still, do we need a charter change to be able to do this ourselves?
Right. So
So
I'd like to request that Attorney Bissonnette weigh in on this item.
yes. And
Hey, good evening, everybody.
good evening.
I don't see any prohibitions on city property for the city to be able to designate veterans parking. There's nothing in the state statutes that prohibit it. So I'm not even sure why there was an amendment to the statute to begin with, authorizing cities and towns to place one at their city or town hall, because without a prohibition, cities and towns are generally in charge of their streets and parking, particularly on their own property. So I would say if the council wishes to craft an ordinance to that effect, you could begin immediately and have DPW outline where on each city property it would go. I would give special consideration to using it at schools, given the number of demands on their parking spaces, just something to consider.
Thank you.
Sounds good. So,
So it appears we do not need a home rule petition, but I don't know. The maker was certainly thinking of other places than City Hall. I would think the senior center might be a likely location for one.
well,
I think the parking issues are big at the schools. I'm not sure we would want to do that.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure whether that's even within, our ambit at this point.
Right.
My thought is we either mark this as complied with or we give it leave to withdraw because we don't need it.
Well, do we want to create a veteran space here at City Hall or at the senior center? Because then we would have to, in my view, send it over to ordinance
Well,
if we wanted to do it.
if we wanted to do it, I agree, which is why I assumed maybe leave to withdraw and then an order to send it to ordinance.
Oh, so we would just refer it. We don't have to,
Oh, okay.
we don't have to get rid of it. We can just,
We can just refer it and it goes off our docket.
yes, so we could make a recommendation. I mean,
Yeah.
theoretically, we could make a recommendation that we add a veterans parking space at City Hall and the senior center. Or
Yeah.
one or both or more.
Yeah.
And we can send it over to ordinance because there would have to be an ordinance created, is what I was understanding from Attorney Bissonnette.
That's what I understood also.
Okay, well, is there a motion to do that?
I'll make that motion that we add a parking space at City Hall and the senior center for veterans. And refer it to ordinance to be put in ordinance.
I'll second.
Sorry.
And Meg will have the picture that I can't find.
There you go.
And maybe the DPW, because they're going to have to make the sign, I would think.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's a motion, there's a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving right along.
Motion to take up item 5.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And item 5, from 9/17/25, order to add a rule that any city councilor named by a speaker during public speak has 2 minutes to respond at the end of public speak.
So,
Yes, you are the maker of the order.
so I think historically.
Yeah.
And all the historic norms are being broken at almost every meeting, so we can't stand on past practice too much anymore. But historically, the decorum, if you will, was that people came in and spoke on an issue.
Yeah.
They did not come in and speak to a counselor or about a counselor. But that has been, let's just say that line has been crossed a number of times in the last year or so. And it seems only fair that if a member of the public in public is making a statement about a position or a statement about a counselor, that they should be able to speak to the matter, if named. If it's just a general statement about an issue, no. But if someone is directly named, then to me it seems only right. They should be able to respond.
Counselor Devine, I believe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do they need 2, I agree.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that often, but do they need 2 minutes? Isn't 1 minute enough for someone to counteract whatever,
Well, I would say,
or up to
Up
2
to.
minutes, up to. Yeah.
up to has, I would be very open to saying up to 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, most responses probably wouldn't be. And I'm just sort of hoping things aren't going to be that way that much, but,
Yeah, maybe
but
we never.
you can't count on it lately.
Yes, so, Mr. Purcell.
I just worry about the city council president being able to control the meeting. If you have a member of the citizen up there doing public comment, giving their 2-minute spiel about whatever, because it's free speech. It's free speech, period. And going back and forth with whatever city councilor's name that was mentioned, and it becomes a Donnybrook, and this city council president gets out of control. So say 10 people came in and mentioned the city councilor's name, our public comment would go till who knows what time because of the back and forth. And then some people would, I want to respond to that. I want to respond back. It could go back and forth for a long time because it becomes a debate. And that's my only concern is when does it stop?
Can I clarify?
Yeah, no,
Sure,
after
but
Lindell.
can I just
Poland.
jump in for a moment to recognize that Councilor McGrath Smith has joined us on Zoom?
Oh, okay. So to clarify, the order says that the counselor who is named can respond at the end of the public speak. It's not to have an opportunity for debate. It's after the public speak is over. It's not to have a back and forth at all.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't even open the door to that.
Well, and, yeah,
I'm sorry, I keep
No.
butting in.
no, please do. I will wait till you're done to,
I think that one thing that we're missing, to me, it should say, add the rule that any city councilor named in a derogatory way, because sometimes they do compliment city councilors, so,
Well,
you
then
know.
they could say thank you. No, and I mean, and it's only if they want to.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, a counselor might not even want
Yeah.
to. You know, I mean,
okay, so I see Councilor McGrath Smith's hand up, and Councilor, welcome, and please join in.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I have a concern with allowing counselors to respond to public comment. I think that even the room itself speaks to a really intentional setup of separation between council and the public, and there's a reason why there is the space that the council can enter, and then the public. And when there is public comment, it's the one time that they get to speak. They're not allowed to speak unless we suspend the rules any other time. And that is their time. And I feel like there's something really just sacred about that, even if they say things that we disagree with or say things that, that we think are wrong, right? That are even false statements. It is their time to say what they're going to say. And we have so much opportunities to speak and respond and to have voice. We're people in power. We've been elected. We speak for others and represent others all the time. And I feel like in the moment, people just need to be able to say what they want to say, even if we think it's wrong or we disagree with it, because that's their space. And I really am very anxious about this concept of, if we move forward with this, allowing the counselors to speak, because I think it does then break down. Sometimes people need to come and say their point. And if there is any kind of sense that counselors are responding to it, I think it will invite back and forth. We don't have a bailiff. We don't have security. We don't have anyone that can be like, okay, and now public comment's over and please move to the left, sir. And I do feel like we should not create any back and forth with the public at all. And because we are people in power, just responding, even if it's at the end of public comment, I think we'll feel like we're wading deeper into the trenches and now having a back and forth. And I think it might invite then they respond. I just think we should be very careful of that, given that we're trying to put up rules around decorum and even the space to preserve decorum. And it's only the council and the public there. And I think we should be really thoughtful about our power, but also about making sure that there is decorum and safety in council chambers. Thank you.
Well, actually, I just want to make one point, and then I will go back to you. Wait, Councillor Purcell was next in line. So, and, Meg just made several points that I would have made. But I think more critically in some ways, I think we do have to remember that we're talking about members of the public here. And yes, there have been disruptions and there has been speech that I really wish had not taken place in City Council. But at the same time, I think one way in which we tend to be unusual people is that we are not afraid to speak in public. And for most people, speaking in public is a real barrier. People get nervous, people get terrible stage fright. And we're already asking them to put themselves forward to talk to a bunch of people who, as Councillor McGrath-Smith just said, are in power. And we want that public participation. It makes us happy when it happens for the most part. And I don't want anyone scared off more than they already are by, oh no, I might offend Councillor Panich and she might come after me. So I just wanted to raise that, and I want to turn it over to Mr. Purcell.
So I'm going to just give an example. The very first meeting we had here, as a city councilor, a person came up to the microphone and did her public comment. And what she did was take a full meeting that we had, and pick the issues, her talking points, just the talking points that fitted her speak. And the comments were not said in their entirety, and I did not respond because I knew what she was saying was not even a half-truth. It wasn't even a tenth of the truth. It was this, and then left out all the important information that preceded it. And I just let it go. People after the meeting, city councilor said, what was that all about? I told them what it was all about. And 2 days later, the people that were in charge of the meeting that attended that she was speaking about, and it's in the minutes from last night, said, we're very sorry. She did not represent two different people. Said, we're very sorry. She did not represent our group. And she took everything out of context just to get her talking points in. And so I'm afraid if we do that, you're going to get that back and forth again. And you're going to have two people saying, I'm right, I'm right. And one is in power, just like Meg McGrath just said, and the other one's just a regular citizen in the audience. So how does anybody take anything? Who's telling the truth if you're hearing two different responses, and what does it lead to? It leads to nothing. It doesn't lead to anything, except for two people saying two different things. And who's telling the truth? We'll never know until, like, for instance, me. What was told about me wasn't true, and I have the emails to back it up, saying from the people that actually ran the meeting, said, this is not true. She was not speaking on our behalf. She did what she did on her own, and we apologized. They apologized. Two people that run the meeting apologized for what she said. And I said, no, I understand that, and I understood what she said was this little piece didn't fit what I have to say, and this little piece didn't fit what I have to say, so I'm going to pile it all on him, and that'll be what really happened in the meeting, which wasn't true. It didn't really happen that way. So how do you differentiate between who's right and who's wrong, who's telling the truth and who's lying? And where does it end up? You might as well just take what both people say and throw it in the trash, because you're getting two different opinions. That's all. Thank you.
So I think Councillor Bacon was next, and then Councillor Devine.
Thank you. So what I would say is from that, you would get clarification. So I think the situation is that we've had people come into the gate. I have never heard the amount and the frequency of profanity in these chambers and the lack of respect as I've heard in the last year. And that, in terms of decorum and civility, is what's getting out of control. Now, everybody says everybody has the right to free speech. Well, we don't give up our right to free speech when we come and sit in these chambers either. And if somebody's walking up to the gate and calling a counselor out by name, and particularly with hostility and profanity and other improper decorum, and if they're not asked to leave, then I believe at the least a counselor should be able to respond. And I mean, nobody has to believe whoever, I mean, people choose to believe whoever they want to believe in all debate and disagreement, and that's part of the process. Some people call it lying, some people call it making your argument, other people call it whatever they want to call it. And then other people just call people names. So, you know, I mean, that's the whole gamut. But there is nothing, and when these get out of control too much, what some city councils are doing is they are discontinuing public speak. Because it is an offering to the public. It is not a requirement that is done for the public. I think it's a good thing to have it, but it needs to be within bounds. It needs to have decorum. Personally, I believe we should know who is speaking to us. They know who we are. We should know who they are, but that's a different topic. Yeah. But I do feel pretty strongly that if if people are coming in for the purpose of calling out one or more counselors, that can become a lobbying tool. And I just think that in those instances, a person should be able to respond, regardless of their position.
Okay.
But that's my opinion,
Yeah.
and,
Well,
you know,
And, yeah, and it is worthwhile having. Counselor Devine.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Counselor Purcell, I think.
You know, the one thing about discussion,
Yeah.
it gets a lot out there that you may not have thought about. And to Richard's point, I completely forgot about that situation, and that I got an email back from, I guess, the head of that group, and doing exactly what you said, that wasn't true, and that. And I certainly learned from Meg McGrath Smith, and no disrespect to Linda Vacan, but we want the people to come in. We don't want them to be afraid. I don't think they're that afraid all the time, but nonetheless, we need to give them that opportunity. It is free speech, and we're elected officials, and sometimes you got to take the heat. And so in that regard, I've changed my feelings as far as that order goes because of the discussion that has gone on. And I just think we may not like everything that the public has to say, but they may not like everything that we do. So it kind of evens out that way.
Thank you. Counselor Purcell.
And I'll just refer to Rule 6E of our rules, is that we're not allowed to speak bad about our fellow counselors, the public. That's what 6 Rule is. We have to show decorum. So if a citizen comes in there and starts blasting a city councilor with probably the stuff that they shouldn't do, they do it. And they're saying exercising free speech. But what if that city councilor loses decorum in his rebuttal? And our rules say we can't you do that. So they don't have the rules. They don't have Rule 6E applying to them, but we have Rule 6E applying to us. So that's another reason why. What if the person that came in and said an absolute lie, and I just said it at the end of the public comment that I was just going to say that's not true, and then she could have got up and it would have just been mayhem. But then here I am saying something bad about a citizen, and my rule says, 6E says I can't do that.
So,
I'm just throwing that out there as another thing to be careful of. We have a rule to follow as city councilors. And if I get in a back and forth with a citizen, I'm violating that. Or if I get in a back and forth with another city councilor, It's the same rule. We can't do it. Where the rule talks about social media, all these rules that we have to abide by. What if we decide that we're going to become the public and give them back what they gave us? We're violating the rule. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, so if I can jump in here for two things. One is that I am very sympathetic to the concerns about decorum, but unless I'm misremembering, there has been a court case in the last few years that have says that we have to put up with citizens using all kinds of ugly language. So, but that was just, on the one hand, I think running that past the city solicitor rather than relying on my memory is a good thing. But I wanted to bring it up before this discussion ended. The other thing that I think, maybe even this conversation, which, don't get me wrong, I think is useful and clarifying, brings home, is that our city council meetings by rule are 3 hours. If we have 10 people in for 2 minutes each, and say 10 of them speak in a way that somebody wants to respond to, that's 40 minutes out of the meeting time. And, as Councillor McGrath Smith did point out, we do have privileged access to both speaking time for the public to listen and to the press, to Holyoke media. People listen when we talk, and I think it does give us the opportunity to respond to substantively to both behavior and speech by citizens that call us out that we don't like. So I think that should go into the calculus, both the time and the fact that we have a voice that a random member of the public often doesn't. And
So I want to read
Yes.
my order again.
sure thing.
It says to add a rule that any city councilor named by a speaker, and you could say speaker or speakers, but if 10 speakers said something about one councilor, the councilor would still only get one speak time, up to 2 minutes. During public speak has 2 minutes to respond at the end of public speak.
Yeah.
Now, we have suspended our rules many times. Last night was a suspension of rules like none I've ever seen. We spent over a half an hour with 2 people speaking,
Yeah.
completely outside of our rules. And, I heard calls for, empathy and understanding and love and all that. Ironically, when the shoe was on the other foot and there were 4 of us who were being vilified and called Nazis and on a poster with a burning cross, not one elected official stood up for us that because we are conservatives, should not be demonized and vilified and called Nazis. So what I'm pointing out here is the concern around the decorum. In all the years I've served on the council, we never had people coming up to the thing swearing, using the F word, on Zoom, coming in with vile profanity, and just, it's crossing a line. And it only seems to be in one direction for the most part. And I think somehow we have to keep decorum and civility, or we have to give people the ability to respond when the attacks seem to only go toward certain people, or something has to happen because it's freedom of speech. And by the way, I have read that case. The basis that the city failed in the rule that it formed relative to the public speak was that they were too broad, and they wrote and used language that was not within the law. They used vague language, and so when it went into the court of law, it was found to be too broad, too vague, and not enforceable. So it was thrown out. But had they written it a different way, it would have stood.
Yeah,
So it's not that we cannot say anything about how people address the elected officials in public. We can.
Well, I would be curious about,
But that's not what I'm trying to do.
yeah, no, it's not what you're trying to do. But, I have not read the case, or at least I haven't read it recently. But void for vagueness and similar ways to toss something out don't mean necessarily that if you did it another way, it would be blessed by the courts. And I would expect if we tried to do anything about decorum, somebody's got the ACLU on speed dial.
Well, that's
Yeah,
not what this
but-
is about.
But no, this is about how we respond to this situation and whether we want to add the right to respond. And unless anyone has any other comments to make at this point, I suppose the question is just where we go from here.
Right. Right. I think everybody has made their points.
So,
Well, I would like to make a motion that we adopt it. I don't think it would be overused or abused, and it does not allow for the opportunity to debate with the public, which we agree is in a rule that we do not want to encroach upon. It only gives an opportunity when there is a target put on a person. And I think it's only fair in that type of an instance that people could respond. And I would also note that there's nothing in here that suspends the rule that you have to maintain decorum and you can't attack the speaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing in this that undoes any other rule around decorum for the city councilors, or intends to.
Councilor Devine.
Yeah, in thinking about this, all you have to do is, if, some people are junkies like me, I like to watch the Congress, okay? They get 5 minutes to speak, and people get up there at their town meetings and criticize that elected official, and that's what they do.
Yep.
And I really do think that I don't want to scare the public speak, as much as I might not like some of the things one or two people say sometimes. And we're working on changing, there was a couple orders last night so that, like, they have to show their face if they're on Zoom. Okay, so we
As a
know
possibility.
who's talking. So we have that order out there that we're going to be working on. And I don't want to, public speak. I think Aaron Vega years ago was the one who put this in. And it's nice when more people come, in my opinion, to come and speak. But I think we get paid to put up with it, unfortunately, but that's what we do, and that's what they do. So I think we're wrong in doing it, just my opinion.
Well, then what I would ask is that we table this to see where the other orders go that have been filed that are related to it, and so that we could table it for a future discussion depending on where those land relative to public speak. So my motion would be to table it.
Anyone object to tabling?
You have
All
to
right.
have a second.
There has to be a
There
second
does
in
have
order
to be a
table
second,
it.
but, no, I was making sure that there were not going to be screams of discontent, but I will second that. And all in favor? Aye.
Motion to take up item 6 and 7 as a package.
Thank you, yes. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, this is
It'll be a long read.
a long read. This is from Councilors Jordan and Bacon. I recall this from the end of last year.
Correct.
And I think Councilor Jordan put in a very helpful explanation of it. So I will read them in. 6525, Rule 8 be amended by adding a new Rule 80 as follows. I'm sorry, 80 is in the alphabet. No sum appropriated for a specific purpose shall be expended for any other purpose, and no expenditure shall be made, nor liabilities incurred by or in behalf of the city until an appropriation has been fully voted by the city council, sufficient to meet such expenditure or liability, together with all prior unpaid liabilities which are payable out of such appropriation, except in accordance with the recommendation of the mayor to the city council, approved by the yea and nay votes of 2/3 of the council, provided, however, that after the expiration of the financial year and until the passage of the annual appropriations, liabilities payable out of a regular appropriation to be contained therein may be incurred to an amount not exceeding 1/3 of the total of such appropriation for the preceding year. Every bill, payroll, or other voucher covering an expenditure of money shall be approved by the signatures on the back of such bill or voucher of the majority of the board or committee having control of or incurring such expenditure, and after such approval, such bills, payrolls, or vouchers shall be turned over to the auditor. The financial year shall begin on the first day of July in each year. The provisions of this section shall apply throughout the entire of the financial year. Reference City Charter, Section 49, MGL Chapter 44, Sections 56A, and MGL Chapter 44, Section 338. And item 7, Rule 8 be amended by adding a new Rule 8P. In case of failure of the mayor to transmit to the city council a written recommendation for an appropriation for any purpose not included in the annual budget, which is deemed necessary by the council, after having been so requested by vote thereof, said council, after the expiration of 7 days from such vote, upon its own initiative, may make such appropriation by a vote of at least 2/3 of its members, and shall, in all cases, clearly specify the amount to be expended for each particular purpose. But no appropriation may be voted hereunder so as to fix the specific salaries of employees under the direction of boards elected by the people, other than the city council. Reference MGL Chapter 44, Section 33. The annual budget shall include sums sufficient to pay the salaries of officers and employees fixed by law or by ordinance. Notwithstanding any contrary provision of such city charter, no ordinance provide for an increase in the salaries or wages of municipal officers or employees shall be enacted except by a 2/3 vote of the city council, nor unless it is to be operative for more than 3 months during the calendar year in which it is passed. No new position shall be created or increase in rate made by ordinance, vote, or appointment during the financial year subsequent to the submission of the annual budget unless provision therefor has been made by means of a supplemental appropriation. No ordinance, vote, or appointment creating a new position in any year in which a municipal election is held shall be valid and effective unless such ordinance, vote, or appointment is operative for more than 3 months during said municipal election year. Reference MGL Chapter 44, Section 33A.
So, if I may?
Please.
So, in the first reading of this and with the explanation from Counselor Jourdain, it was discussed in committee that it was a very dense rule, and most of the language is state law and exists as referenced in state law and our charter in combination, right, in these rules.
Yes.
So I think the question is not whether the language in these rules exists in effect, because it does. It exists in our MGL, it exists in our charter, and some of it exists in our rules and ordinances, right?
Right.
So but I think the idea was to tie the charter language into a rule, and I think part of the thinking that was expressed by Counselor Jourdain was that there's a lot of new counselors. There's only like 3 or 4 more senior counselors that may know kind of in our heads
Yeah.
these, and there's a lot of detail, right?
Right.
3 months of this and 2/3 of that. And I mean, so I think the idea was that if we put it into a rule, it was more readily available for reference. Having said that, it is present in the Mass General Law, it is present in the charter, so it then becomes a question, sort of like the Muni Code thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a bigger document of rules and references? Or do you want to rely on the fact that it's in the charter, it's in other rules, but it takes a while to understand the charter and all the ordinances.
Yeah.
So there is complexity to it. And so I don't think it would hurt to add it, but it does add to the bulk of it. But particularly this financial stuff. And I will say, on one aspect of this, I learned something. Because for years, we've always said, the only thing the city council can do is cut, right? In the budget?
I have heard that said, and I have wondered.
Right? And then you read this, and it says, if the council deemed necessary, and I mean, trust me, I am not in the camp that wants to spend more money. But
I think
I've been pretty clear about that over the years. However, it was surprising to me that
Yeah.
that even existed as a possibility. And so it may be helpful to have these in the rules. So I guess that would be all the summary I would offer
Okay,
for now.
so I will call on other people in just a moment, but I wanted to say, I think this is a tremendously helpful memo. And my reaction to it was, the rules are tough to navigate as it is, but I would be very open to starting to do, as it were, an appendix to the rules, and starting to put memoranda of law there so that they're right there for all of us to reference.
And you don't have to go digging through Muni Code and
Yeah,
reading,
because-
trying to find the place in the charter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the rules are, if we can strip the rules themselves down to clean, easy to assimilate language, it doesn't mean we have to jettison this. I just want to find ideally a separate place to put it.
Well, I would be happy to make a motion that we add item 6 and item 7 for easy
Yeah.
reference as an appendix to the rules as a reference for city councilors.
I would be very happy to second that.
I think it would be helpful, but again,
Yeah, no,
as an
I think-
appendix, I think that's fine.
Yeah. I think that satisfies both goals of this. And, yes, Councillor Purcell,
As long as we're not breaking any rules.
we're not breaking any rules.
We've been breaking rules all over the place,
Councillor Devine,
but that's a different agenda
that's a
item.
different item. Yes,
I
we'll get there.
was talking about this. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Devine.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is so confusing. So confusing. I go through it and I go, my God, what are we supposed to do with this, this? And it seems to me, when I read it, it's like taking the power away from the mayor. The mayor is the one, the chief executive officer. And as I always say, if you look up there, we are makers of law, makers of history. This is the legislative branch. And if we start, again, just my opinion, but if we keep putting in rules like this, it's going to take us forever just to read it, much less try to understand it. So I know that Attorney Bissonette is here. I don't know if he wants to add anything to this, but to me, it's too confusing, and it's taking too much power away. And some of the notes, I definitely put confusing. And what if this appropriation that has to, quote, has to be voted on by the city council, what if it's urgent? You know? So that's just
So,
my opinion.
If I can just respond for a moment, I think that what we're contemplating here takes it out of the rules. So it wouldn't actually be a rule, and we would not be taking anything away from anybody. This would just be like a sort of, if you are perplexed and you don't think this will make you more perplexed, here is Councillor Jourdain's rundown of how this process
Former
works.
Councillor Jourdain.
Well, former Councillor Jourdain. We still call them presidents after they leave office.
Yes, we do, out of respect.
But at any rate, this is, I think, at least as I was understanding the suggestion here, a way to have it available to people for whom it's helpful, but it wouldn't bind anything because it would not actually be part of the rules.
Right.
And does that answer any of your concerns?
Well, it does say Rule 8 be amended by
Well-
adding.
Yes, we're not doing that. We just,
So that's deleted?
Yes.
Where, can somebody explain where the deletion is? So I can cross it out?
Do you want me to
Go for
explain
it.
my motion? So my motion was that we would, rather than creating a rule, I didn't say that part before, that was assumed, that we would add the language as an appendix to the rules, which means it's not a rule. But I can say, we will strike the language that says Rule 8 be amended by adding in both cases.
yeah,
Because then it makes it clear that we're not amending the rule,
right.
okay? So I'll amend my motion to add that, to strike those, if that helps.
I would just like the city solicitor to weigh in on it also, just to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay, do we need a motion?
Look at his
to-
dog on the, you see his dog?
Yep.
Yes, that is an adorable dog. Solicitor Bissonette, do you have any commentary on this, please?
I'm waiting for advice from my paralegal back here. Dash is just trying to get comfortable, I think. The second order relative to adding to the budget is in fact part of state law.
Right.
So regardless of what you do tonight, the council has that authority in the event that the mayor fails to make a necessary appropriation. That's always been the law. It almost never gets executed. There's a similar provision for the city treasurers if they're not funded for tax title collections. They can request the assessors add that to the levy. So those are the two instances where you can go outside the mayor for making budget proposals or additions to the budget. I'm concerned about the first one simply because I believe it came from a dispute over whether or not transfers can be done in the last 90 days of a fiscal year and 15 days into the new fiscal year on a majority vote rather than a 2/3 vote. As you know, passing the budget only requires a majority, but up until the change in state law, making such transfers in the last quarter of the year would require 2/3. That was changed at the request of the Mass Municipal Association to a majority for those last few months of a fiscal year, basically to balance the books. And I believe that's part of the underlying argument under the first order you're considering. Again, state law, and it really has very little effect on our ability to enact a rule that differs from state law unless it's in the charter. This would not be. So I'd be concerned about that. But as to the second one, it already exists and there's no problem there.
And
Hope that didn't make it more confusing.
Councillor Bacon, I think you wanted to ask.
Well, there's been debate about Section 49 in the charter and the state law that allows us, that says we may change that in the last 3 months of the year, but it doesn't require that we change it. So there has been debate about that, and the language in the charter, the argument is that the charter overrules if it is not in opposition to the state, which our charter is not. So there's a bona fide debate relative to whether that should or should not happen. But since we have changed rules relative to voting, it would depend on what required vote existed for that, whether it would happen or not. So, but the argument was that the charter should rule, and the debate was whether it did or did not. So I think that argument still exists, and it's showing here with the reference to the section of the charter. So, but it's only as a reference, not as saying it's a rule. But it's something to be debated because it is not a hard line, if you know what I mean. We have
Yeah.
frequent debates about whether the charter or the state law prevails, and it usually depends on the language of the state law.
Okay.
Right?
So, if I may,
It's-
would you be open to a revision of this language just to reflect the fact that there is a debate?
Relative to the entirety of the financial year?
Well, I would have to go back and listen to Solicitor Bissonet's comments about this again.
Well,
to
he
know
was
exactly-
saying that
but-
the state law allows for a majority vote at the end of the year instead of a two-thirds vote. This argues that the two-thirds goes for the whole year because that's what our charter says.
Yeah. and
So
Just, I was thinking something saying something like,
the charter has,
please note that there is a dispute
about the
yeah,
charter
the charter and the,
prevailing over the state law?
yeah, and whether or not it's 9 votes or 7 votes. And again, if we do that, assuming that we're not actually enacting a rule, we're just adding an appendix memorandum for those who find it useful, the debate is noted and it shouldn't mislead anybody.
There has been debate whether the charter rules, I'm not necessarily using the right words, but the right
Yeah, yeah.
intent. There's been debate whether the charter rules over the updated state law regarding the last 3 months of the fiscal year.
Okay, and at this point, I'm going to just ask a procedural question. And on the planning board, where the rules are somewhat different, it was our practice, and was before I was there, to, under circumstances like this, say, all right, we have consensus as to what we mean here. And then just delegate either the city solicitor's office, if the city solicitor had the bandwidth and happened to be there, or a member of the committee to come back with the redrafted language rather than sit here and try to make it exact while we're working. Is this something that the city council or its committees are comfortable doing or have been?
Well, for myself, I would be comfortable if you wanted to come back with a better way of saying that at the next meeting.
Yeah, no, I would be happy to attempt to. Yeah.
I noted down the gist of it, but
Yeah, and
it could
then,
probably be better stated.
well, or we could then have a discussion about, assuming that I was the designated person, did I get it right or not?
So I will amend my motion that we add item 7 as an appendix to the rules. So can we vote on that?
I would hope we can vote on that.
Okay.
Rick, are your concerns satisfied?
Yep.
Okay. Counselor Devine?
Yeah, so on 7, if would be an appendix to Rule 8?
No, it would
Appendix
just be,
to the rules.
right.
Okay,
We are eliminating Rule 8 be amended by adding.
okay, so it's not a rule.
So it's not a
Correct.
rule.
So why are we putting it in our rules?
It's
Or
a rule.
in that section? Where's it going to be?
It's going to be
at the
at the
back.
very end.
Of our rules?
of
As a
our rules.
reference.
Okay.
After it is over, there is
And-
going to be a section that says appendix.
Okay, and, okay, I know what you're saying, so, but what I have some problems about is, say, the annual budget shall include sums sufficient to pay the salaries of officers and employees. Is this language just from Counselor Jordan?
No, it's
Or-
state law.
That is state law, what I
Yes.
just read.
Because
Okay.
that's what Attorney Bissonette just
Okay,
verified.
fixed by law or by ordinance, notwithstanding any contrary provisions of any city charter, no ordinance providing for an increase in the salaries or wages of municipal officers or employees shall be enacted except by 2/3 vote of the city council. Counselor Bissonette, does that talk about collective bargaining?
I don't think so. I think that refers,
To the
if
budget.
I'm remembering the right section, is that the elected officials section? Counselor,
It's MGL 44 and 33, and it's related to the budget. It's not related to contracts.
yeah, I think it's read in connection with the salaries of elected officials can't be raised during the last 3 months of a calendar year. So you would have to go into January to do any raises, and they wouldn't be effective till July 1st. That's to prevent outgoing counselors or last-minute raises, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think the procedure we're talking about, as opposed to the actual motion language, what we're talking about is we will assume that we are adding language based on this and not heavily amended to the end of the rules, not as a rule, but as an appendix.
Right.
And we are going to go away and work on the language to make sure that it is correct.
So item 7,
Yes,
we have a motion and a second to add item 7 as an appendix, but we haven't voted on it yet.
yeah. And I wanted to be clear with everybody that, this is what we're doing, so the language will come back and people will have another crack at it
For 6.
for 6. And,
So we're only going to vote on 7 right now,
okay, so the motion is to add this as an appendix,
right? Striking
striking.
Rule 8 to be amended by adding a new Rule 8P.
Yeah, and I would add, and,
I got a question.
okay,
So if we make this 8P,
We're
we're
not.
not.
It's going to be Appendix A,
correct, so 8P has nothing to do with anything.
nothing.
Thank you.
We'll call it Appendix A.
Thank you. That answered my question. If we're gonna make it 8P, I didn't want 8O not to be there.
No.
And what happened to O? You guys are screwing this thing up.
Right, right.
Oh, no, absolutely agreed.
Right.
Thank you, that's
Sorry, I didn't mean for the two of us to take over this discussion. On the motion,
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Okay. So for item 6, I make a motion that our chair write language at the end to capture the concept that there has been debate as to whether the charter rules over the updated state law regarding the ability of passage of financial orders in the last 3 months of the fiscal year be by majority vote rather than 2/3 vote. That's the gist of it?
That's the gist of
And that the chair will bring back language to committee to accomplish that
Yes,
goal, to reflect that debate, and that we will then look at the language and add it as an Appendix B, theoretically, possibly.
right. Okay. Counselor
Is there a
Devine.
second on that?
There's a second, but Counselor Devine has,
Will this be city councilors present?
This
that
is an
vote?
appendix-only reference.
Oh, this is an appendix as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
This is only reference.
okay, thanks.
Yep. We'll call it Appendix B.
okay,
How's that?
sounds
Make sure you
good.
take out Rule 8O and 8P.
Yes, sir. I think that probably I'm up to that, but, Okay, so, we have disposed of items 6 and 7 for tonight.
I think we just have to vote
Oh,
on
did we
the
not vote?
motion.
Okay, I seconded it. So, all in favor?
Aye.
So the motion is to table for
Table
the
for now,
language.
yeah.
And Rule 7, it's item 7 passed.
Yes, and item 6 will be tabled for, my motion is that we table item 6 for the
The
language.
language,
So we have to second
Yeah.
and vote.
I second that.
so, all right, I think we voted, but we will vote again. All in favor? Aye.
I think we did 7 and.
I
now
think
we
we've
did
done
6.
6
All
and
right,
7.
anyway.
Anyway,
Motion
on
to
to
take
8.
up item 8. I apologize if it was a duplicate.
And I will read it, and this is from 1/6/26, and it is ordered that Council Rule D be struck in its entirety, that Rule 8F be amended to read, in all cases, the president shall have the privilege of discussing all matters before the council and of voting thereon, and that Rule 8 be renumbered accordingly. The revised rule would serve the public's interest in their elected councillor being able to participate fully in the council's decisions and is consistent with the practice of the council's committees and with rules of other city boards and commissions. And we talked about this last time, and I promised that I would reach out to the council president to get her feedback. She is unable to be with us tonight, and I told her that in that event, we would just leave this tabled until she could join the discussion, if that is,
Okay. Okay, so we'll leave it, so I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Motion take up item 9.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ordered that we amend our charter and ordinances to change from an elected mayor to a city manager, chief administrative financial officer appointed by the city council. And Councillor Bacon, I think, do you want to address this, or do you just want to give it leave to withdraw?
Well, actually, I think since the city is moving to more and more appointed positions, and all the authority of the city council has essentially been eliminated in terms of making appointments, that this is a model that would be and could be a very positive forward movement for the city to keep alive and to keep under discussion and to possibly move to. So I am not looking to give it leave to withdraw. I think it is a viable model, and I would make every argument for this model that has been made for every other position that we have changed from elected to appointed.
So what is your will?
So this is actually a structure that was welcomed by our mayor a year or two ago as a forward concept for the city. And so I would be very interested to see, as we move forward with all of these administrative positions that have been created, to see how the efficiencies will actually work in real time, and whether or not one of those could become exactly what is in my order. So I would very much like to keep this alive. I am happy to table it,
Yeah.
but I would prefer that the committee not throw it away. Thank you.
No, fair enough.
I'll make a motion to table because we're not here tonight to have a big discussion on it.
Yeah, and, I certainly don't want to ask anyone to take away an order that they're interested in pursuing someday, so I'm down with it.
Okay.
And
Good.
again, Councillor Purcell, I'm not,
No comment. I'll leave it as is.
okay, so motion to table?
Yes.
Yes.
Or is that your motion? I'll second it. or
Yeah,
whatever.
whichever. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll let Jeffrey sort it out.
Motion to take up item 10.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And this one is from Councillor Devine. And Councillor Devine, do you want this brought up tonight?
I think that it's, you could table it. There's, it doesn't seem to be a problem. So at least if it's tabled and it does become a problem, we can always take it back up. So I'm okay, I'm all set to table it.
Okay. Motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up
Thank you.
item 11. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, no. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 11 is from Attorney Jane Mandaleski, Assistant City Solicitor, with City Council voting specifics. And, this is actually, I think, from Solicitor Degnan. But it's a great list, and it has some
It's from Mantelis.
Oh,
Yeah.
where are we? February 2nd,
11.
I have one request relative to it.
sure, go ahead. while
So
look
I
for it.
would like the committee to refer this back to legal to update it, given the votes that took place last night, because now it's not what it was. So to be a reference, it would need to be updated. Although,
Yeah, I
we
assumed that we
didn't,
could,
although, having said that, we didn't change the ordinance. We changed the rule,
yeah, we changed the rules.
but we didn't change the ordinance.
Yeah.
But we changed the rule relative to, so is this talking about rules or ordinances?
This is require just a variety of matters.
Okay, so we would need to have it updated, I guess, huh?
Well, certainly, you know, I have no problem with asking for it to be updated. I think it will need to be a work in progress anyway, because
Right.
things will change.
Right.
But even without the change to reflect last night's rule change, I found this a tremendously interesting and helpful document. And I wanted to thank the law department for it. And I assumed that the motion would be to receive, but if it is to send it back for.
So I'll make the motion to receive and send it over to legal just to update to the current votes as voted at the recent city council meetings.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to take up item 12?
So moved, or I'm sorry, second. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Okay. Item 12 is from 3/4/25, ordered to amend Rule 6E by adding the following: that no member of the city council shall make references to or about another member, but in respectful terms, whether inside or outside the city council chambers, including on social media. That the city council also take into consideration this time how the city's social media policy should help guide our final rule. And Councillor Bacon.
Thank you. So this came out of a number of things that have been going on, particularly in the last election that was quite vicious and heated with a lot of extreme language used, not necessarily by any particular people that I would name, but it came out of that context. And interestingly enough, around that time, or maybe a little bit before that time, we had all been provided with and signed for the social media policy that the city had developed. And under, I guess, certain laws, we're considered employees of the city. And so whatever's in that social media policy applies also to us.
Footnote here.
Yes.
When they gave me the social media policy, I read it, I realized that we were, in some senses, employees.
Yes.
I also considered that as elected officials, elected by the public, we are not in the chain of command of the administration. And I got onto the mayor and said, basically, I'm not signing this. And I haven't, because not that I want to be profane or disrespectful to anyone. And I honestly can't imagine any situation in which I'm likely to violate that social media policy. But I do feel pretty strongly that we are an independent body and that, you know, the mayor is not the boss of us. And
I very strongly agree with that sentiment, but
Yes, I know
I don't see the council functioning that way, but okay.
yeah, no, I figured at some point I would start surprising people with saying things like that, but in fact it is true and I believe it. And as a result, I do have some concerns with this order, because although I don't want to be disrespectful myself and I kind of wince when I see certain language on social media, you know, I believe in free speech. And I also believe that to a certain extent, disrespect is subjective. And if we're going to move in this direction, I'd like to see more clarity about what constitutes disrespectful. I mean, it's hard. I'm sorry, Councillor
You guys
Devine.
have the rules there?
Yes?
I was going to say, maybe you could read it. Excuse me for interrupting you.
Oh,
But
I
maybe you
should've-
could read that rule.
Oh, this is a proposed rule.
I know,
Oh,
no,
oh.
it says amend Rule 6E.
Oh, you want to know what 6E
Yes,
says?
please.
Hang on. Six E says, "No member in debate shall make any references to another member, city employee, or member of the general public, but in respectful terms."
I think that's perfect. I don't think you need to do this. Just my opinion. I think that rule is perfect. The rest of this,
Yeah.
to me, takes free speech away from you.
Yes, Mr. Purcell.
So this brings me right back full circle to what we were discussing earlier about public comment. If a citizen goes up there and is very disrespectful to whoever, and we're saying that can't happen anymore. And at the end of the public comment, the city councilor decides, I'm going to get him back with what he gave me because that's my only retaliation, and starts breaking Rule 6E by calling him this and calling him that and saying, you're the liar, I'm not the liar, et cetera, whatever they're doing, they are violating that rule. That's why I don't think a city councilor should respond to anybody during public comment, because they're going after the public who is exercising their right to free speech. And as a rule, we're not allowed, and this codifies that. This is saying we're not allowed to do that, yet we're turning around and doing it by breaking that rule. It happened to me firsthand, I know that, in this chamber. So, and it happened to me by more than one counselor, just so we know, and I was a citizen. So, and this leads me to censorship. If we're going to censor somebody by their social media post, then we should censor them when they do stuff like what Will Puello did. I mean, we have no censorship in our city council. If a city councilor does something, we have no way to remove them. We have no way to censure them. They do what they do, and they're violating Rule 6E there too. By going I seen one city council meeting where one city councilor threatened to hit the other city councilor right when the meeting was happening a couple of terms ago. And I was like, and I heard the other city councilor, you just threatened me. And I was like, am I watching this right? And nobody did anything about it. And that was Rule 6E. So I guess my question is, if we're going to apply all that with the social media and that particular part, and we're not doing it now. We're violating the rule now, and now what's going to stop us from violating the rule later? Tomorrow, the next.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So it's not a question. It's a. We violate Rule 6E. Somebody violates Rule 6E. I'm just gonna say, I don't like the color of your hair tonight, Patty. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I know. But so I just violated Rule 6E. And who is the 6E police?
But if I may, I'm sorry to be that person, but that's not what's before us. What's before us is a suggestion, an order that we consider this amendment to 6E. And I think Councillor Bacon has made her pitch for it. Councillor Devine has disagreed.
I disagree too.
You disagree too,
I
and
do.
you are welcome to expound on it. I just don't want to get into existing 6E because that's not on our agenda. And Councillor Bacon.
Thank you. So this proposed rule amendment is only talking about how counselors relate to each other. This is not about the public.
It says public right in Rule 6E, the general public.
Yeah,
You just read it.
our regular rule.
What I'm talking about is the order that I filed.
Yeah.
That is item 12.
That's where I am. I'm talking about 6E right now.
Right.
We can't.
But
we
what
can- we can talk
motion-
bad about the public, but we can't talk bad about the city council.
Counselor, you came to the microphone as a citizen using profanity, swearing at a sitting city councilor, so please, enough.
Can I respond?
I was sitting there and heard that and witnessed it.
Excuse me.
So I would like to clarify my order.
Okay, go ahead.
My order is saying that no member of the city council shall make references to or about another member of the city council, whether inside or outside the city council chambers. It's not talking about the general public.
Yeah.
I guess I'm missing something.
Yeah, no, we referred briefly to existing 6E, which is not proposed to be changed from its current language. This is a proposed addition to
Correct.
or to 6E. And, I'm trying to keep these as separate. And, I too, mostly because I just don't see that this is defined clearly enough to function, concerned about adding it. But, I don't think that what has or hasn't been done under the existing 6E is actually on point for this meeting, although enforcement mechanisms, it's true. We
Well,
don't
it's up to the president to keep order in the meetings. That's
Yeah.
the role of the president.
And, okay, I think we're all on the same page as far as that goes. Now,
Yes.
Counselor Devine,
I think that when I asked that 6E be read, I think that fits it perfectly. I don't think we need to add any more. And how do you watch outside that somebody is talking about you? What if somebody's at lunch and they name a city councilor for something? Is that wrong? I mean, there goes the free speech, this is America, the whole bit. 6E is perfect, and it just has to be followed.
okay, is there a motion? Or Counselor Bacon, did you want to add anything?
Well, I think the only problem with 6E is it only says in debate.
Yeah.
And I think to say that we can't say that we're going to have a certain standard of decorum as city councilors, a code of conduct for ourselves. Almost every organization or place of work has a code of conduct. And this is just really a tiny part of what you would normally find in a code of conduct. So I don't understand the big debate about it. It's rules about us for ourselves. We're not constraining or restraining anybody except if a person feels they can't be respectful. But I guess I have a little problem. Why do we know what respectful terms means in Rule 6E, but we don't know what respectful terms mean when we talk about it outside of debate? It means the same thing. So
Well,
so I
because
think it's the
6E is-
location that seems to be the issue.
Yeah, no, but 6E, again, is not before us.
Well, this is
This
an
is an
amendment to
it.
6E.
But
Right.
I don't think we need to change existing 6E or worry about what it does to address this issue. And Counselor Purcell.
I just need some clarity on just this issue right here, 6E. Who is going to decide whether they broke the rule of decorum?
Well,
I'm say a certain counselor raises their voice, and they're doing it in a disrespectful manner because they disagree with whatever. I heard, and I'm not gonna, I don't even know how to do it by saying, in the meeting last night, somebody called a certain group of people in this council were called a gang. At what point do you say that's losing decorum? And if that person says, that was not decorum, that was my free speech.
If I can answer that, or try to. I think Councillor Bacon had the initial answer, which is that it is the city council's president, or the city council president's job to call that out when it gets to be too much.
So it's the city,
So,
sorry.
and the other part of this is, I would suggest that if you have concerns about enforcement, file an order. We'll take it up.
Thank you.
And I want to add something that I think is a little potentially off topic, but it has to do with how you determine respect. To a certain extent, it is easier for some of us than for others of us because of education and background. And if you sort of naturally speak Jane Austenese, you can express a lot without being disrespectful, because that's the way the code works. If you come from a different background, you may easily say things that are perfectly respectful within your own subculture, but disrespectful when you take it into the majority culture. And I kind of am afraid of burdening people for whom this is not a mother tongue. But
Or
also
who it is not what?
a mother tongue.
Well,
And, you're going to hurt people either way. But again, I don't know that we can legislate what is respectful outside of these chambers. We can rely on our president to keep us in bounds, and Roberts gives us a very formal structure to do that in. And, there are mechanisms in Roberts that we might want to consider at some point, like, will the gentleman yield for a question? But, I have too many concerns to recommend adopting this for outside of our chambers. So, like Councillor Devine, I would be inclined to leave this alone. But that's just me, and I am open to any motion.
so you see it as an issue of location that controls for the conduct rather than the conduct itself?
To some extent, I think we have to have respectful debate. That's the only way it works. When it breaks down badly. Those of us who watch the meetings have seen this for a year, and sometimes longer. And I don't mean to call out anyone in particular, because it has come from all sides. So I think, control and the rule matter here. And I don't want to see slaying matches outside. I don't want us screaming at each other on social media. In my perfect world, nobody would scream at anybody and nobody would use profanity. It's ugly. But this isn't my perfect world, and we need to hear from a lot of voices. And I don't want to create a situation where everybody is watching themselves to see whether they're possibly breaking a rule or being accused of breaking a rule because they spoke more strongly than some people might have felt was warranted.
Well, I agree with that.
So,
But I mean, that happens under the rules that we have because everybody's not the same.
yeah, it does. And I don't see this as being particularly helpful. I think we have to consult our own consciences.
And so this is just what I would like to say to that.
Please.
We all come from our own culture, our own background, our own education, our own ethnicity. However, when we run for public office, we are running to sit in a seat that is a leadership seat, a role model seat for the citizens that elect us. And there have been historic and traditions of decorum and conduct that go with the status, the privilege of being the leader and sitting in the seat. And I don't think whatever our background is or whatever should say on the one case, if you do it, it's wrong, but if somebody else does it, it's okay because of where they came from, because we're coming in here together as one body to represent the citizens. So we have to buy into these rules as an example that we all vote for. But these rules are often set aside or just ignored. So, I mean, what do you do about that? Well, hopefully the citizens elect people that will take the oath and follow it. I mean, that's all that can happen in a democracy,
Okay.
right?
So.
I guess, so.
We are winding down this meeting. Item 12 is the last thing on our agenda, and this is a fascinating conversation that I would love to continue. Maybe at some point we can get together and have it on, like, Holyoke Media and send it out to all of the citizens, because, you know,
Well, if you want to keep it alive or if you want to kill it, I don't know.
yeah, but, you know, I think philosophically, you know, this is, you know, we're beyond the scope of the order, and we should vote, and
I agree.
Move
I
to
think you
adjourn.
need to
We're,
vote.
we're
and,
getting in the weeds, for
Yeah.
sure.
Just, you know, we have that rule. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the president that has to say, oh, that's a violation of the rule. Anybody can say that. We just don't. And you know, we can certainly get in the habit of doing that. One of the things is, and I think everybody is guilty of it from time to time, is you're only supposed to speak so many times. Well, we don't really say that, but maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need to say, oh, so-and-so, you're speaking 3 times, then the council has to approve that. So we've got all that information, we just don't use it. So maybe we all have to put in our heads to start using it, our rules.
yeah, good point. So, what's the motion? Okay, I would move that we forward this to the city council with a recommendation that it not pass.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, I look forward to the minority report. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye.